Are going to go live. All right, we are good to go. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I am Tony Babarino from Remax Premier Realty, bringing you another interview, giving you guys some useful information, trying to build value so you can make really good decisions based on good information that we're trying to share with you. These are all opinions. There's no perfect answer, but we're really trying. So today, I have a guest I could not wait to get on for a long time. Oh my God, I feel like I'm meeting a rock star. It's real estate geek stuff, so I don't expect people watching to know. But you are like the unicorn, the appraiser. Mark, introduce yourself. Talk about a little bit about your company so people know who you are, because a lot of times people don't see appraisers, so you're kind of a ghost.
Yes, thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me on to share a little bit with your audience. Like you said, my name is Mark Buhler. I'm an Orange County real estate appraiser. I've been appraising in Orange County since, well, let's just say over 25 years. My practice is primarily outside of the lending world. However, I have a vast knowledge of how the lending appraisal world works. I'm based in Laguna Niguel. I've been appraising all over Southern California. I had a large company that covered most of the state at one point. And most recently, I've started to teach appraisers on a little niche topic on green, energy efficient homes and valuation of solar.
Nice. So you're not only doing appraisals, you actually are teaching other appraisers on changes and nuances in the business, because like anything else, things change. So you're trying to bring them the newest information or the changes.
I've been teaching appraisers on that topic, and real estate professionals I've been speaking to in different areas. Solar seems to be a hot topic these days. I just did a Zoom class this weekend to a large group of appraisers for 4 hours of continuing education for them.
Oof. And that is a topic for you guys out there. I cannot wait to cover that, because in my experience as an agent, I love the house. I love the price. Let's make an offer. Oh, there's solar. Uh-oh, now what do we do? So if anybody wants to hear a juicy topic that's like kind of new, the guy you're looking, not this guy, that guy you're looking at on screen, you're really going to want to hear what he has to say. But that's the next topic. That's like, you're going to have to wait, kids. All right. So what we want to talk about today, Mark, is something that I personally appreciate, and I think the public should just be aware so they can decide if they want to pull this trigger, is when I'm sitting with a potential listing, one of the things I like to tell people is, if you really want to make a good step, make the price compelling so the home is selling, while you think it's worth $3 million and the comparables show it's $1 million, bringing someone like yourself in, another professional that has their way, their method, their tools, that can come in. I guess you once called like a was it an unattached third party? You just come in to say, here's what I get in my opinion on the numbers. Whereas maybe I might be a little biased or not. Sometimes we are. It's just sometimes you don't even know. And the sellers are usually very biased. It's my house. It's worth this much. Okay, well, when I show them the CMAs, they can believe that. But then we bring someone like you in, and you say, well, kids, here's what I found. So could you give the public a little spiel about the pre-listing appraisal compared to when a buyer gets an appraisal, and how you think that may set up the seller for a little bit better preparation for pricing a home together with an agent? Kind of give them the
Yes.
preamble.
Yes, the pre-listing appraisal is prior to putting your home on the market, outside of a lending or a finance transaction scenario. It's for your own use, for private use. So you would call in a valuation expert, such as an appraiser, to provide a pre-listing appraisal. And what that is the appraiser will come to the house, he'll measure the property and take note of all the different amenities inside the home, and take a bunch of photographs, and that will all go into the report, and they'll compare it to the homes in the neighborhood that are on the market and that have sold, and come up with an opinion of value. That's the pre-listing appraisal. The appraisal that's done for the lender is prepared for a mortgage finance transaction. And the difference is on that one is, unlike on a refinance, the appraiser is now aware of the purchase contract price and the what we would call the target price. That if they don't meet that number, then the transaction will fail. It will fall apart. So
Yeah.
um, talk about an unbiased third-party opinion of value on the pre-listing. We don't have an idea of what you have the property under contract for. We will provide you an opinion of what the property might appraise for. One appraiser's opinion.
Which, if you go with 10 appraisers, you get 11 opinions. It's my
Yes.
joke. It's my little joke. Well, we're all human, right? And ultimately, just to cut to the chase of the entire conversation today, something is worth only what someone is willing to offer and accept, period. And we just do the best we can. And the more seasoned we are, the more the accuracy will go from, here to maybe here. And there could be shuffles, because right now with the COVID-19 scenario, I was thinking about this morning. Again, if a seller goes, oh God, I have to sell this house in 90 days, we're going to Florida, my job is moving me. And if buyers are aware that some sellers are in a bind, they can come in maybe a little bit lower, and they can, $1 million home might get $900,000 offers. And the seller goes, this is all that's coming in. Even if you have an appraisal that says it's worth, 9,999, it's not an infallible system we're talking about here, because sometimes people just got to sell and get out of Dodge. I mean, that does happen. And so we want to be able to be fair to both sides. But why I like recommending someone like yourself with your idea is, no matter how many CMAs, comparable market analysis, I come up with, the seller's going to look at Redfin and Zillow, which we know that accuracy is almost like a shot in the dark. You might as well just shut your eyes and throw a dart at a wall and pick a price, as far as I'm concerned. But still, they're going to look at that. Then there's also emotional, which I get that. I try to come in with numbers, but then I like bringing someone like you in, because, again, you don't have any skin in the game. You get your fee. You come up with your most honest, most accurate possible opinion. And then in some ways, that could be considered almost like a referee, because if you and I are this close on the price and the seller wants this, then it's really hard for the seller to say, well, I want an extra $500,000 more for my house. I'm being silly. But, if they're here and it really should be here, then at least having a third person like yourself that's also down here, to be honest, then they're more likely to come down to a more reasonable price. And then we go to market and more likely get a sale. Otherwise, it's just going to sit and sit and sit. So that's why I think and what's the cost on an average? If a house were 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, in your opinion, what could the fee be in that ballpark, so people have a sense? Because I bet people watching are going, oh yeah, there's $3,000. So price wise, what would that be?
Typical residential tract home in Orange County starts around $450. So that's what you're looking at. And if you're talking about selling a house that's worth $700,000 is the median price here. It's a drop in the bucket when you look at that, if you want to get an accurate valuation. But you mentioned that maybe somebody gets transferred and they have to sell in a hurry. We would consider that, as appraisers, a non-arm's length transaction, and wouldn't consider that as a true comparable for the area. If you have properties that go into foreclosure or status, we would tend not to use those unless we're in a market like we were 10 years ago, where the market was predominantly REO and short sale driven. So we would utilize comparables that are market sales as the market stands today.
And that's something I was hoping to bring up, is we would want people to be aware that you guys, like someone like yourself, when you're doing this a lot, there's a lot, like a doctor and a lawyer too, when you have a lot of experience, you see a lot of variables, like in your profession or in mine too, that you get it. You know that there's going to be sale, foreclosure, sale, REO, or whatever the wacky prices are. You're going to look at the realistic number, because for the most part, most sales are normal. So if you have $1 million, $820 million, $1 million, $1 million, 3 million, that I like to think that you guys look at that and think, well, how much, if at all, is this going to affect the value of my determination? So is that a pretty reasonable description to kind of put it on the street level?
Yes, we have to look at those outliers and ask questions. Why did that one sell below the typical sale price in the neighborhood? Why did that one sell for so much higher? And we contact the realtors and we ask these types of questions. What was the
Ah,
motivation behind that one? Why did it not sell at market? Oh, well, there was some type of a circumstance involved with that would move it into that non-arm's length
mm.
category. But the problem with the one that sold $3 million is everyone in the neighborhood is going to latch onto that one. But
Mine too.
yeah, right. He got 3. I should too. One comparable does not make a market. So we're looking, realistically on a pre-listing appraisal. We're looking realistically, what might the lender's appraiser come into your home or your property and come up? What type of value might he come up with? Now, if I come in at $1 million, you're free to put it on the market at whatever you'd like to. If you put it up for 1.5 and nobody shows up, nobody's interested, perhaps you've got it priced too high. If you put it up for $699 and your realtor's phone gets blown up and you get 10 million offers the first day, you might have it listed too low.
It's all a guess. That's what people. I try to be the harbinger of reality. That there's a price that we can take your home where you want to get, and then there's the home of what everybody else is selling for, and then there's the appraiser, which is over here, and we want to try to get to that common ground. So we all together, seller, buyer, agent, everyone, we can have a sale happen, because the price is something everyone obviously is going to look at. It's just a very obviously common variable. Like when I go shop for a car, I know, for example, I mean, I like Mercedes, but I also like Toyota. So whichever dealer I go to, I look at the model, but I'm always going to be aware of the price, and the value has to be there. No one's going to buy a Toyota Corolla, $5,000 over price, unless it was owned by Tom Cruise or something. Oh, I mean, even then I probably wouldn't buy it. Oh no, but there has to be some justification to it. So I like to see an appraiser as, while no one's perfect, at least there's a person who has another opinion, because there are a lot of agents with a lot of variable levels of experience with different resources. So with the resources I use, maybe the next 2 other agents who are competing for the same listing may not go as deep as I do. Maybe somebody has another resource I didn't know. So the numbers could move around. Plus, they're also, with an agent, we can say, yeah, sign here. We'll get that $2 million for your $600,000 condo, just to get their name out there and then build business from that, which eventually won't look good. But sometimes people will just say, yeah, that's the price. Let's do that. Whereas I like to be realistic. We want to be able to get the seller to be happy by getting a deal and close escrow. And if I give them the truth and it comes across like a wet blanket, I could only get $800,000 for my condo. I can't get, 9. Well, based on the comparables, here's the numbers. We brought Mark in for $400. You're going to net, Mr. Seller, $110,000 on your profit. So what's $400? Just to have somebody come in and say, yeah, if we're supposed to sell here and Mark says it's about this and you want that, and you put that price out there with another agent, you're setting yourself up for heartache and disappointment. You're probably going to get 0 offers. The agent's not going to make any business. It'll probably look bad. You're going to be upset. And then someone like me comes in and says, you really should be here. And if they didn't bring someone like you in, I bring you in and you say, yeah, you should be here. It's very hard for a seller to say no, I would think, unless they're just really stubborn. In that case, that's also bad business for everybody.
Well,
Now that's
there's plenty of stubborn sellers out there. And
I get it.
I get called in the middle of listings sometimes to bring them back to reality for what's called
Ooh.
a mid-listing appraisal, because they may
Ah.
not want to hear from their realty should drop the price. But
Mid-listing. It might be a new
yes.
word for some people. Wait a minute. There's pre-listing. I heard of that. There's buyers getting the appraisal. That everybody does that. And so now you're talking about something here. Please continue. This is a good one.
Well, like I was saying, they don't want to hear it they may not want to hear that from their realtor. You know, it's your job to get me as much money as you possibly can. Well, yes, I've been doing my job. And it's not happening. So maybe we should lower that price. Nope. Well, you know, and then you've got stubborn seller situation there, and they don't want to hear that. And unfortunately, a lot of times the realtor ends up paying for that appraisal fee. But in the long run, if you get that thing priced right, and you get that seller to reduce their price based on an unbiased third party's opinion, not who's not gonna he's not going to profit or make a commission on it, regardless of what it sells for. That's truly unbiased. He's just going to come in there and tell you the truth, like a referee would. When the referee makes the call, half the arena's happy, half of it's not. So, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to sell your house or not?
Yeah,
So
that's what it comes
we
down
bring
to.
them back down to reality and tell them, "I'm sorry, it's not worth 5 million. It's worth 3.5." And it's at that point, it's their decision whether to move forward, to lower it, or to just take it off the market, or whatever they decide to do.
Yeah, we're just trying to justify our steps. You know, at the end of the day, there's all these people involved, and then, you know, if you invert the pyramid, there's a lot of people involved, but it comes down to the seller saying yes or no. So my job is to tap into resources like you, for example, that could come in and say, look, we're not Mr. Seller, we're Mrs. Seller. We're not trying to fight you. We just want to make sure you're set up for success and not heartbreak. If you want to sell your home because you want to buy a bigger one, and you want that net profit to move on, you got to sell the home. So if you're going to stick so firm to a higher price, here are the consequences. It isn't, you're not going to get offers. It isn't going to sell. It's going to look like, to the public eye, that I agreed to an overpriced house, and nothing happens. And then someone later comes in, and if they use you and they say, you know, we really should be here, now a transaction happens. The whole point of listing a home is to get it sold. So those CMAs, you see, like, people email me your address, I'll send you a rough CMA, comparable market analysis. There's going to be variables to a home. And Mark, I think you probably have a few opinions, generalities, general opinions. What are some things that you feel strongly could affect the value of a home, and some things you feel strongly won't? Here's one example. Well, I put in a brand new garbage disposal and vinyl wood floors, so my house should be worth for $4,000 more dollars, even though I only spent $1,100.
Well, first off, let's get our heads around the concept that cost does not equal value. So if you upgrade your house by $50,000, that does not automatically bump your price up by $50,000. What an appraiser's job is to do is to determine how will the market react to that? How will a home buyer react to those amenities that you put in? So when it comes to determining value, the number one criteria for me is, where is that house? There's a house across the street that has a panoramic ocean view that's in average condition. There's a house on this side of the street that has no view but is completely remodeled. Which one's worth more?
Right.
Well, you can't move the remodeled house to the other side of the street and enjoy that panoramic view. You can make the house with the view a beautiful remodeled home. So location is the primary driver, as everybody knows, of real estate. And then we go down the line as to the quality of construction, the condition, the size of the home, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and amenities such as swimming pools and garages and views, and not in that order or at all, but the places where an appraiser will make an adjustment on the grid, the sales comparison grid, where we're putting the subject property in one column and putting the sales comparables in columns next to it, and we're making the comparables equal to the subject. So if the subject property that you're selling has a larger lot than the comparable, the appraiser will make a positive adjustment to the comparable to increase the value to make it equal to the subject. Your house has a pool, the comparable does not. The appraiser will make an upward adjustment for the pool and downward for amenities that the comparable has that the subject does not. So my number one is proximity to the property. Those are the best comps, in my opinion, the ones that are in your neighborhood. And that would go into the location. And then we start to make adjustments for different things like the lot size, the age, the condition, the quality, the rooms count, bedrooms and bathrooms, the square footage of the home. But I want to make this point while I talk about square footage. Appraisers do not value homes on a price per square foot basis. You'll see that on the report that the house is sold for $1 million and it's 2,000 square feet. So that's $500 a square foot. That $1 million sale is not entirely attributed to the square footage of the home. There's a lot of pieces that go into that. The lot size, the location, the view, all those amenities that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
By that logic, if you doubled the size of the home, you could double the price of the home. Or if you tripled the size of the home. Let's take a 2,000 square foot house worth $1 million. If you turn it into a 4,000 square foot, would it be worth $2 million? No, that's not how it works. So that's a big misconception in a lot of people's eyes when we talk about this is a $500 per square foot neighborhood. It depends. I think the bigger the house gets, the lower that number goes. You get diminishing returns on that. So we need to be careful about that one because we put the house together as sort of like a pie with a bunch of different pieces in it. And maybe the square footage isn't as important as that panoramic ocean view or that 1 acre lot.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be variables that we have to look at, which makes it challenging in the beginning, like when you're dealing with the buyer and they're looking stuff online and they see one house was a little bit less than the rest of them. Oh, let's make an offer like that on that house over there. Well, there may be things about the other houses. Maybe the last 5 homes that sold that were comparable, they all had a pool, but maybe that one that was cheaper didn't. Or what if there's the house you want to buy has lots of upgrades inside? That may not necessarily reflect in Zillow and Redfin. The data they get is pretty basic, but when someone like myself, the reason why as I expand around the town, Irvine, Laguna de Gale, Newport Beach, I go on those broker previews and make those personal notes on homes. So if anybody were to want to buy that, I can see, oh, I've been there. By the way, the reason why that's a little high is it appears the home has this, and it doesn't show until we go in, you see it. And then you hope the appraiser also sees the value in that, which is why if that seller had a pre-listing appraisal, then they can justify their price. Just like when I'm working with the seller, we want to be able to do everything we can to validate as much as realistically possible a price. Pre-listing, inspection. Let's check everything out. Let's do all the repairs possible. Pre-appraisal, pre-listing appraisal. Now let's bring someone in that says, you know what, based on my data, the appraiser, here's what I think it's worth. And if we just did an interview about the pre-listing inspection. So the less issues with the house and the more improvements there are, the appraiser should be hopefully, it should be a little bit nicer number, you would think. Not that every repair and every upgrade affects it, but it's a lot better to go into a pre-listing appraisal with your house as in good working order as possible. If you have a major leak in something, you probably want to fix certain things because there's also perception. So even if I come up with good CMAs, you come up with a pre-listing appraisal, and I say it's worth this, and you say it's worth that, and the house is dirty, or the windows are filthy, or there's a bunch of little knickknacks that's just not nice looking about the house, buyers are going to say, look, I see your CMAs and your pre-appraisal, but this place looks like garbage. So even something as simple as that, nobody will buy a filthy, busted up Ferrari, even though it runs great, at the Ferrari price. So that's why you got to at least clean them up. So all these variables, I use the pie chart analogy too. It's a pie chart and you don't know how much it's affected. Having something clean is not a bad idea. Having repair done is not a bad idea as far as I'm concerned. Having a pre-listing appraisal. So we have something to look at other than what any real estate agent can put together. And it's going to be subject to the quality and their skill and their thoughtfulness and how much effort and time they put in. And sometimes they do it quickly, sometimes they do it deeply, but it's nice to have an appraisal to compare it at, because if you came up with $1 million and I came up with 995, wow, I think we got something there. So that when we list a house, having the pre-listing appraisal, having a pre-inspection looked at, pricing with the CMA, if we can stand on lots of ground and say, look, the market's been supporting this price of $1 million, and we got paperwork to document to back it up. As a selling agent, that's really hard to fight. If I'm doing a deal for a buyer and the listing agent hired you to do an appraisal, whoa, that's going to be pretty hard to to give the buyer some kind of deal and discount because it's so justified. But people have to do their work. And one of those steps is for a seller and an agent to at least think about talking to someone like yourself. By the way, quick note, um, just to put it on record, I did check with a couple of lenders, and you and I discussed this briefly, that if you do an appraisal, but the buyer's FHA and the FHA appraisal comes in lower than what a seller wants, like, oh, come on, really? It's $800,000. Why are they saying 720? If the deal crashes, that FHA appraisal, that gets a case number to the house. And according to the lenders I spoke to this morning, around 120 days, every FHA buyer that comes in to make an offer on your house, good old Uncle Sam, the government's going to know about that appraisal record. So you would have to wait after 120 days and they would start a new one. And you better hope that the FHA will come up to this level of price and not be down here again. So at least with a pre-listing appraisal, there's some probability of awareness of maybe what your house will appraise for should it be an FHA loan coming in. Because if you don't do an appraisal and you price it here and the FHA comes in here and they quit, then you stay at this price, the FHAs come in again, they're going to be here. So either you got to drop down to the FHA level or get a pre-listing appraisal, have a pretty good sense of where you should be. And God willing, the FHA buyer appraisals about here, whew, that's one problem averted. I mean, not every deal out there is an FHA, but it's just something to be aware of. Check with your lender. We're not preaching gospel here. That said, Mark, in terms of appraisal, CMAs that agents do compared to what appraisers do, just so people can appreciate the differences, because I think people when they hear appraisal, they think, oh, a guy that comes up with numbers. When they think of agents, they think we go in the MLS and we compare. But I believe you have you could share a couple of little distinct differences so people could appreciate what they're paying for and the value, because I know I'll use current, past, expireds, listed price, and I'll come up with everything I can. But can you give an example of some things that appraisers do or should do when they determine the price of a house? Oh, sorry, determine the value of a house.
Yeah, the opinion of value, right?
Right.
The first thing that they need to do really is to analyze the market and determine where is that market at, which is important to get a current snapshot as of the date of inspection. That's the effective date of the appraisal. So when you talk about the pre-inspection and the pre-appraisal, they get pre-approved for loans also. It's a very wise and prudent maneuver to get that all your ducks in a row and do all those things entering into this situation, into this transaction, so that you don't run into that situation like the FHA deal, where now you've got that one value based on that one guy's opinion that's tied to that FHA case number. So unless you wait 120 days or find a buyer that's not FHA, that's conventional or VA or cash, you're kind of stuck with that thing. So the appraiser's first job is to analyze the market and see where's it at right now, which is really important in this, stay at home and distance ourselves. And we're not able to really view a lot of homes like we did before. There's no open houses. You really want to get a good idea of where is the market right now, as of this date when I my effective date on this report. So we're looking at the market first, and then we might choose comparables a little bit differently than a realtor does. My criteria are the most proximate, recent, and similar sales that are available at the time, and excluding those outliers or figuring out why are those outliers higher than or lower than typical. So I'm not sure how a realtor puts together a CMA because I've never done that, but I've seen information that they've provided to me at the time of a purchase appraisal, and I can see the criteria. And sometimes they'll run the MLS and based with a price range. Well, we don't do that as appraisers because there might be some oddball in there. There might be something that's lower than you might want me to see. Yeah. So
Oddball. It's like, there's always that one guy with that one house if somebody really wanted it. Of all the homes, you're the only one on the corner and you're elevated, but everyone else isn't. I'll give you more. And it's like, oh, what are you doing?
more often it's the lower ones that they'd rather I didn't take a look at. But an appraiser is going to look at everything, and they're going to expand out the marketing area boundaries to see is there something out there. Lenders require us to what we call bracket all the features of a home. So they want to see a house that's larger in square footage and one that's smaller in square footage, one that's old, younger, one that's similar condition. If you have a pool, they want to see a house with a pool because that's how an appraiser extracts the value of those differences. Is they do what's called a match paired analysis, and they look at one or two or group paired analysis with more than one and say, okay, these are all the homes that are, similar in all other aspects except for they don't have pools. And here's a batch that is similar to those, but do have pools. On average, the homes with pools sell for X amount more, be it 10, 20, $50,000. It depends on the price range. So appraisers might look at a larger data set to determine the market and analyze that market, but then they're going to pinpoint it down to the best, most recent, in my appraisals, the most recent, proximate, and similar homes. They're not always are the most proximate and similar, the most recent. So in that case, I have to make an adjustment if warranted for the date of sale. This one sold a year ago. What was the market like a year ago? Was it higher, lower? So there's that. So
Yeah, if it's a seller,
my number one criteria is proximity to the house. And if you're in Coto de Casa, you probably shouldn't leave Coto de Casa. And if you're not in Coto de Casa and you're in Rancho Santa Margarita, I'm not going to use a sale behind the gates of Coto de Casa.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of variables to look at, and and sometimes sellers aren't aware. Not everybody knows everything. That's part of our job as an agent should be to do our best, not only to constantly educate ourselves, is so that we can share the education with the seller, so they can make a decision. If one were to just go into a listing appointment and say, okay, here's what we should sell at. Good luck, but it is good to at least share the knowledge, and that's why I think, in my opinion, having a pre-listing appraisal, I think that shows strength. Now, there are other reports out there. Like, one of my favorites is the reports on housing.com. That's one more thing I bring in to show where the market is. An appraisal, if it works out, that supports that, great. So there are a lot of variables. At the end of the day, it's going to be what somebody's willing to buy and sell for. And on that note, question: in your experience, and I can imagine people who are playing this video back, they missed the live, shame on you. But if a home, hypothetical, I wrote that to you in the notes, and I want to see what the odds of this are of happening, because it could, I guess. If a home is $1 million, they say, oh, I want to sell for $1 million, and you appraise it for $1 million, and the next person that comes by as a buyer, they say it's $940. Uh-oh. Seller wants to stick to, I want the $1 million because my pre-listing appraisal said it's $1 million. And the last two buyers we went into escrow with, they came into escrow. Sorry, some people are texting me questions instead of typing here. And so if it's $1 million, let's say it comes in 50 grand short, buyer leaves. The next buyer, 50 grand short on the appraiser. It's like, well, these other appraisers are coming 940, 950, 960, but my pre-listing said $1 million. Now we know reflexively a seller is going to say, but this one says $1 million. Why is everyone saying 950? Well, number one, their opinions. Number two, especially with the market right now, things could change. So I wanted to ask, what do you think, within reason, the probabilities of 3 different homes getting a pre-listing appraisal, and then actually, if they take that price into heart and go into escrow, and then it comes in short, or over, what do you think the percentages are of it being more like this than like this? Pre-listing buyer's appraisal. How big of a discrepancy do you think someone could expect? Because I can't imagine them all being 100%. $1 million appraisal, buyer comes in $1 million appraisal, score. What if it goes this way, the sale price, the appraisal, because of the pre-listing, and then this way? So what do you think the variables are of the differences? Could
Well,
be.
first off, you send me notes. I usually just ad lib all this stuff.
Well, I know because
No.
you're a natural born genius and you have this tattooed in your forearm.
I saw
You're my
your notes.
oracle.
Thank you.
You're my oracle. Don't let me down.
No, every one of those appraisal valuations is an opinion. It's an opinion of value. So yeah, you may have a pre-listing appraisal at $1 million. You might sell your house for more or less. I would say that I don't use raw hard numbers with this. I would use a percentage, and I feel good if I'm within, 4 or 5% of what actually ends up happening. So one thing I want to tell all the realtors out there is, I mentioned this earlier, when an appraisal is ordered on a purchase transaction, the appraiser has the purchase contract. They have that sent to them. On a refinance transaction, the appraiser, since we've changed the ways that appraisal works as after the mortgage meltdown, they don't have any idea about the loan scenario. They don't know what your target value is to make that refinance happen. On a purchase transaction, it's the opposite. We know what the contract price is. And you'll be surprised, and happily surprised, most likely, that oftentimes, if possible, and if it's supportable and supported, that appraisal will most likely come in at that contract price. Even if you price it, I've seen it as, you've sold the house for $948,888. They might come down to the exact dollar. So the discrepancy shouldn't be wide, as you mentioned, between what a pre-listing appraisal comes in at and what the home goes into contract at, or what eventually sells at. But let's go back to what I said earlier, is that opinion of value is as of that date of inspection. Mm-hmm. After I'm there, I can't speak to any sales that happen after the fact. So if things change in your neighborhood between the time when I'm there and the time that you sell it, that's the market just moving upward or downward. And no one has that crystal ball. I don't know what this situation is going to bring about. If prices will remain stable, will they decline? What will happen? What's happening right now, today? What is this? May 11th?
Yeah, it is May 11th.
The virus and the pandemic has not affected the values yet, because appraisers use a rear view mirror technique of looking at what happened, not what might happen. Sellers are not giving discounts. Some buyers are lowballing and trying to find people in a bind. It hasn't started to happen yet, and appraisers don't have the data available to them at this point on this date to see what's gone on in the past. Yes, we've seen homes that were active go into hold status. We've seen pending sales slip a little bit. There's a lot of homes on the market, and the demand is pent up. So
yes, buyers are waiting. Point, they're like, let's go.
Yeah, they are. But financing is tight right now. So we're running into issues with homes falling out of escrow. So when an appraiser is knowledgeable about everything that's going on, why did that house go on the market? It was active, and then it went into hold, then it went into pending, and then it canceled or expired. Well, dig in a little deeper. I'll bet in a lot of those cases, especially in the high-priced ones and the jumbo loans, there may have been a financing problem there. Because I've gone out to purchases recently where this is not the first appraisal. This is not the first purchase transaction. The first one, somebody decided to not proceed with the transaction. We now have the COVID escape clause basically in the residential purchase agreement for realtors. There's an out. And if you're not comfortable, or if you can't get that financing because lenders have tightened up, and maybe your job situation has changed. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but we don't have enough data to say that the market's gone down, up, stable, or not at this point. In a couple months, yes, we should be able to tell. But what I've seen lately is nobody's getting a bargain at this point, and appraisers are using comps that sold prior to any of this happening.
Mm. That's true. There are always going to be exceptions in any situation. So I've been telling buyers that say, "Oh yeah, those sellers, man, they need buyers. Let's lowball them." So, well, let me ask you a question. If you're selling a $900,000 house right now and you have no particular pressure, would you take a lowball offer? No. Well, then why should they? You got to look at both sides of a transaction in negotiating. And unless a seller has a dire, desperate need, and even then, there are some sellers say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and move to Florida. My company's going to move you to Florida. I'll just rent my house out. And the buyers go, ooh. So now, so now it's, do you make a fair offer and get the house you really wanted? Because you really want that house. And you have a pre-listing inspection, pre-listing appraisal, you got your pre-approval, you make a fair offer, you go into escrow, and everything works out, everybody wins. But the buyers do have to realize that if a seller is moving and let's say they're desperate to sell, and, I'm sure there's some out there, let's be honest, not all of them, but there are some. Let's say it's you. If you're desperate to sell, maybe now suddenly you'll just say, I'm going to rent my house. And in a year or two from now, when everything is better at some point, then I'll sell, and I'll sell for higher, because real estate goes up, then it goes down a little, then it goes up. And if you sell in the future, you're more likely going to be in a better scenario anyway. So buyers, with the virus situation that we're in at this time of the interview, in some cases maybe there's leverage, but you can't count on that, especially if the listing agent and the seller, if they did a pre-inspection, they did a pre-listing appraisal, it's really hard to fight that. So you can't assume people are desperate because of the virus situation. So that's why, in my opinion, when I'm taking a listing, I want to be very prepared so that you could bring a seller to reality. Because some people, if he's a CPA, MBA CPA, and he used some resource, you want to be able to say, well, we can take that into consideration, but here's what we found that's worked for us historically successfully with high probability. Because Zillow and Redfin, banks don't rely on that. Hi, I want to get a $30,000 line of credit on my house, and Redfin and Zillow said my house is worth an extra $200,000. And
Redfin and Zillow are not licensed by the state, nor do they carry E&O insurance. And if you Google Zillow CEO Spencer Raskoff and his transaction that he made on his property in Seattle, it sold considerably lower than the Zestimate that his company had on his home.
I heard about that. Oh, I believe, and I have to check, but in the past, they used to have in the fine print a little link you could click, and it gave you the percentages of discrepancies. And it used to be pretty big. They still have, I think, the $1 million bounty. If someone can write a program to get a much highly accurate estimate for a Zestimate, they'll give you $1 million, I think it was. I have to check if it's still there. No one's taking it. They just can't do it.
Maybe I will, but I've done a little bit of a spreadsheet looking at, before I go to the house, what did Zillow say that it was worth, and what did I appraise it at? And that's an interesting little study. But for you realtors out there, I've heard this. I don't know for sure, but look at it before you put it on the market. Look at what those online websites say that the property is worth. Then put it on the market. It will magically switch to your listing price.
So, in summary, in terms of a seller selling a home when they want to list it, so I think you and I, anyway, of course, we are partial. We agree that getting in a pre-listing appraisal is one of the pieces of the pie chart in determining a price at that time. 2, a comparable market analysis, a CMA, done deep and wide, not just something from 2 clicks of a mouse, but a CMA done, especially if you can find model matches, especially if we know some of the variables of the homes to justify the price. So that's another piece of the pie chart. Now, we could look at Zillow and Redfin only because we want to know what buyers are going to see when they're shopping, so that If it turns out coincidentally that a pre-listing appraisal and a pre-inspection is clean or repairs are done and a CMA analysis has been done, if it jives, that's great. But if it's like this, we can justify this, and Zillow's estimate, for example, is here. There are people who might want to make offers, but we have to be prepared for the conversation. I would like to trust that when a buyer has an agent, that agent will have a conversation with them, letting them know how a Zestimate or a Redfin estimate, they'll give them a reality check. Because if someone inquires, one of the things I like to be able to say is, well, my seller did a pre-inspection. We have all the receipts. We did a pre-listing appraisal. Not that that's a gospel and guaranteed number, but we have a lot of strength on our side to validate why we're asking for this price. Would you like to know? And if we can justify it, then they can communicate it to the buyer. And if the buyer if they think it makes sense, we should, God willing, have a smooth transaction. There's a lot of variables after that, of course, but I think you and I are in agreement that, that pre-appraisal, like you said, and I agree, of course, and I'm not qualified special, it just makes the most sense. It's an opinion at that moment based on the variables that you work with. I compare it to the variables I work with. And historically, for me, they've been really close. It's really nice how that works out. And that buyers who have good agents, they should, if they have the experience and they do their work, should say, that price seems about right. Maybe we can negotiate something. Maybe they're priced a little bit high so they can come down a little bit so buyers can feel like they won something. It's a game. It's a game, and we're just trying to play it open and honest, which is why I brought you on, because I want people to hear from you and hear our banter about they should do. Oh, that's something buyers do. Yeah, buyers with their loans, their lenders do it. But I want my clients, especially the buyers, or the sellers, of course, I want my sellers to be the least blinded. We want them to be aware of as much as possible so we can sell at a price that's going to work for the market, especially if the buyer and the agent have been educating themselves. Because of the internet, people are getting a little smarter, a little bit faster, we hope, and that people will come together on similar terms, similar price, and we can justify as much as possible. But at the end of the day, like I said in the beginning, it's just a guess. Would you agree? Ultimately, it's an educated and informed yes, but it's still a guess. I mean, if you want to oversimplify it.
Maybe a guess as to what it might sell for, but
Correct.
an appraiser can, we do appraise to one point, so it's one value, pinpointed down. But I mean,
that's the number we work with. Yeah.
Kudos to you and those like you, sellers working with people that are have a team of people at their disposal to figure out what might be some of the issues that might come up during this transaction, during the home inspection, during the home appraisal. There's a lot of different things that pop up that can trip up a transaction in a bunch of different ways. So if you can work with somebody and equip yourself with the tools to smooth out at least this part of it,
Yes.
maybe this home will sell quicker. And we don't know what the future is going to bring. I'm going to tell you what I think it's worth on that day.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want to be able to move quickly on that and get it done if you're of the mindset that, oh my goodness, things are going to fall apart. If you're of the mindset that things are going to continue to go up, 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 then I'll take my time. Maybe by the time we sell this thing, it'll be worth 5% more than what Mark thought, or 10% more. But if you have an idea of what's going on out there in your neighborhood, I get contacted all the time from people with very difficult to price homes. I've got one right now, and it was a referral from a guy from title or escrow or a realtor, a real estate professional. And it's a very complex property. It's got, stables and barns and a large lot and these types of things. And that's going to be a tough one to pinpoint, an oceanfront property in Laguna Beach. What do you think? What do you think it might appraise for? And it's good to have at least something there to lean on, and you don't have to share that with anybody. You just
That's true.
Put that aside and say we're pricing it at this, and if somebody comes in with something different, you could make your choice there, whether you want to sell it to them or not.
Exactly. The pre-listing appraisal is between the real estate agent and the seller. It's our little secret at that time. I had a listing at Dana Point, and some parts of Dana Point with ocean views it's quite eclectic. There are in this one home I had as a listing with an ocean view, like wow, there's no model matches. Zero. It was built in 1980. And Dana Point, I don't even think it was incorporated as a city then. It was just houses just pop up almost arbitrarily. And you know, we had a lot of things to go over. It was really tough, but fortunately, she didn't want to do the pre-listing appraisal. She just said, let's just go with what we discussed on our own detail. I did my job and made her aware, and she's just, for her reasons, said no. We got fortunate that the appraisal came in right within like a millimeter of what we priced it at. So, yay, having an agent, a good agent really worked. Whew, because it's good
could have got
guessing.
a hold of me. I'm standing in Dana Point right now. I know the differences and nuances between those homes.
Well, that was like almost 2 years ago. I wish I knew you then. Would have saved me the stress. Where were you, man? You should have
I was
known
right
me.
here.
Right, probably around the corner too, literally. Well, that is a good example too, that people, like in parts of Irvine where things are new, there are cookie cutter homes. But in some areas, older areas of other towns, if I go in and go, hey, Mr. Seller, there's really no model matches, but homes that are about roughly the same square footage in your area with something that seems similar, here's what they went for. Hey, why don't we have an appraiser come in and work his magic and see what they come up with? Let's just zip it, have him come in, and if we're here and he says this, maybe we should find a number in between. If he says this is what it's worth, then maybe we got to come between that number. At least we have a third point. There's mine, there's what the seller sees on the internet, and then there's you. So we can discuss that, because at the end of the day, it's what someone is selling it for, and if someone's willing to pay that price. And we don't want to have a discrepancy that's huge, because then nothing happens. We want to try to keep that about here. And when there's no model matches, when they're eclectic homes that just aren't the same, that's a much more tough battle. So I would think in that case, having an appraiser like yourself is just a +1 more benefit to helping me and the seller determine a price that's going to work. There's what you would like to sell for, and there's what it's going to sell for. And we want to be able to justify as much on our crystal ball as we can and pray that we're going to be about right. Because again, it's just a guess. And you would want, like when you go to a doctor, you have this condition. If you go to 3 other doctors of different specialties and they're about in line with that one doctor, then it is what it is. So whether it's legal or medical, multiple opinions help. You just hope that they're not too drastic. I mean, real estate's not heart surgery, but you get my point, is you want to have the variables. So in summary, people don't have to get a pre-listing appraisal. If they do, that isn't what you have to sell for. You would want to at least provide your appraiser any upgrades or any changes and repairs you did to justify that, because it's going to be worth what it's going to be worth when the transaction happens, and we want to be well prepared. So I would imagine that people who get a pre-listing appraisal probably can hit their target price more likely better successfully and get a buyer, go into escrow and close, than people who just use a CMA only, throw caution to the wind, which is kind of what it is. Yeah, an agent's been doing this. Some guy's been doing this for 40 years as an agent. Well, you know what? The market's different. Every day, every week, every month, things change. There are homes that have been around only 10 years. So I have a lot of hope in the value of an appraisal as part of my assistance in helping a seller determine what a price we should sell a home for. Mark, any last closing thoughts, any summaries, any particular last minute points you want to share with people who are watching, who are thinking of selling, who are going, I don't know if I don't want to spend that money on that. I don't know if I really need to do that. I mean, what's your summary opinion? I mean, we know you're an appraiser, but what do you really believe in your heart that you want to show people?
If you've got a property that you're not sure of, what the market might bear, and it's not a cut and dry cookie cutter, condominium complex where it's pretty clear at what they're selling at, and you want a current opinion of where your market is. You might want to work with somebody that does this type of work on the appraisal valuation and on the inspections and such. It's not a huge expense. It's not a huge thing. And, find somebody that is knowledgeable in your market. If you're out in Palm Springs or something, I'm not your guy. I cover Southern California, and I have a wide net as far as residential and commercial type of work all over the place that I could probably, if I can't handle it, I could refer you to somebody that could.
Oh, you do commercial too?
Yes. Well, my company does. I personally do not, but I do have commercial appraisers that are working with me.
And this is your company, right? CMP Appraisal?
Yes, that's me and Laguna Niguel. So if you were to Google Laguna Niguel Appraiser, my company would come up with the reviews and such. So,
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, call me partial, but I think people should call you if they're going to sell, because it's a reality check, man. I'm telling you, you're just like the fairy godfather shows up and says, people. Based on my experience and my math, I think it's worth this right now. Have a good day. You two kids fight it out. So
that's your realtor and your buyers and sellers may have different opinions. Work that all out, but at least we've got a point to start at.
Yeah, it's something.
If you so choose to go that way. I'm not here selling anything. I'm just providing information for you guys and let you know kind of how this process works. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. And thanks for having me on here, Tony. I got to give it up to a guy like you that has the foresight to put these tools into place to hopefully move this out and make the transaction easier for your buyer or seller.
Well, thank you, Mark. That's really nice of you to say that, because I just want to share you with people and I'm sure people will play this video and hopefully they'll pass it around. It's something they don't have to do, but when someone is like me, who's excited about something, I would want to at least make people aware of it. Now, I'm not going to get all the business. I don't want all of it. Who can handle that? But at minimum, if there's sellers out there who are to call you and take advantage of your skill set, and it helps them with their agent to sell, everybody wins, because the more homes get sold, it makes people happy. Someone sold, someone bought, there's taxes to be paid, things tend to get better. So at the end of the day, it's going to wind up being a good thing no matter what. Now, of course, I'm here to help.
Comp out there for us appraisers. There's one more.
See, it's like a win. Oh my gosh. But hey folks, thanks for watching. This is probably one of the longer interviews we did, but this is a piece of information that really means something to me, and I do share it judiciously, carefully with sellers, saying you don't have to do this. I think it's a good idea. I explain it to them to the best of my ability. They normally say, well, yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's have that variable. The few that don't, I still do my very best to do the right thing. It's just a little bit easier when you got a piece of paper and say, well, according to this and according to my reports and all this other stuff, this is the price. It should work. You hope. I am Tony Babarino. I'm with RE/MAX Premier Realty. Our office is in Irvine. I work everywhere in Orange County. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to have a conversation of selling or buying. I work with everybody. Mark from this CMP Appraisal, I would suggest, if you're going to talk to an appraiser, you had just a taste of him right now. We're going to have a separate conversation about solar. We want to pull the monster out of the closet and get into the bright light. Solar. And it's almost a silly topic. It's like children arguing in a group, and we want to bring Mark in to go, okay, everybody over here, let me explain this to you with solar and value of the home, because a few things you told me, it opened my eyes of, oh my God, we got to let people know about this. Now, we can't share everything. There's going to be a few nuggets that we have to have Mark keep in his pocket. So, but if you guys want to talk about the appraisals, if you want to talk about solar and get ahead of the curve, just give him a call. His information will be below the video. It showed up like 10 times in the video. You know, I'm not steering people and shilling anything. I know you. I told you, I kept your business card in my computer briefcase, and periodically I checked for it to make sure I didn't lose it. Where's that guy's card? I gotta find. Oh, thank God, there it is. Because you're the only appraiser I met who spoke to that seems to have quite the diversification. Now, I'm sure others do, but you're the one that was willing to share it, which is why I wanted you on, because I think other people would appreciate hearing your thoughts, especially when
Absolutely.
we talk about solar. Ooh, that's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we better
How it can
pull out
go
a
on.
beverage
How it can
for
go on
three
forever.
hours. That'd
Just
be a
kidding.
3 hour conversation.
I did it Saturday for 4 hours to appraisers, but yeah, anybody wants to reach out, I actually prefer email if you're scrolling that. And yeah, I just actually, I wanted to throw this out there. I just came from a virtual online college graduation from my living room back
Oh,
here. And that's what this shirt is right here, right here. That is Forks Up for ASU. So here's to my daughter for graduating college.
oh, congratulations! Oh my God.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh man, college. Those were the days. You just,
Yeah.
yeah, that first day. They should tell high school kids. They don't tell high school kids when you go to college. They don't. They usually don't take attendance. But if you don't show up and you fail, your parents are going to be upset. Really? I can just
Yeah.
get up and go to the bathroom and come back without raising my hand? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you go from like sometimes not wanting to go to school in high school, and when you're in college, you can't wait to go because I think you're in control. You're around mature people. It's very diverse, and yeah, if you're the bully in high school, in college, you're just like, oh, I better behave.
Yeah.
So college is
Right.
a really enriching. You don't have to go to college. Believe me, I have a few clients that didn't go to college, and they got way more money and houses and cars than I do.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I got
It's
to give it up to all the graduates of 2020 this year. So I wore this shirt to graduation. I thought I'd wear it here on this little presentation. So thanks a
oh,
lot.
that's cool. That's really great, Mark. Congratulations. By the way, what was her major?
Health Innovations out of the School of Nursing, Arizona State.
Oh, wow. Is she going to go on to a master's or is she going to go into work?
Work, then masters.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, if she wants to buy a house, I think I know a good agent she can talk to. Say,
All
hey,
right, I'll send
you
her
want
your way.
to send her my way. We'll get her a great condo with an ocean view or something. No promises though, man. I don't know, but I'll do my best. Anyway, thank
Okay.
you very much, Mark. Honor and a pleasure having you on. Cannot wait to talk about solar. If anyone has questions, I will have your email and your phone number in the text below. As we said, I'll have mine there too in case people want to talk about buying or selling. I'm just glad we had a chance to share something with the public. I'm glad I had a chance to expose you to the public. And I think the solar is going to be a fun and ugly conversation, but an eye opener no matter what. And I'm excited. I'm already excited for that. And we just finished this one. God, I love what I
All right,
do.
cool. All
All right,
right.
guys. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, public, for watching. We will catch you on the next video. Mark, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. You're a great guy. I cannot wait to have that next conversation about solar with you. That's going to be a hot one.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Tony. I look
Okay.
forward to it.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Be safe out there. And we will see you all again very soon in the next video. Take care.